Alright, the time is finally here. We're installing BC coilovers. The reason we had to wait for these was because whenever I get coilovers, since I spec them out all day long and I deal with this a lot and I work on trying to make them better and all that stuff, I always try to kind of push the limits, mainly of stroke, like adding as much stroke as possible without making the overall assembly too long, because as you add stroke, which this is your stroke, it's how far the shot can travel. But as you add stroke, you have to lengthen the body. As you lengthen the body, you lengthen the whole assembly. So if you do that too long, make that too long, then the car won't go well. So I did that with my Miata. I pushed the limits all the way until the car was too high, and then I went down a shock size. So hopefully these will get the car low enough. I think they will. We're just going to install them out of the box settings, which is what I always suggest for people when installing coilovers. Is like, just put them on out of the box and see where you want to go from there. There's no point in making adjustments when you don't know where exactly you want to be. You might as well put it in out of the box, and then best case, you don't have to do anything. So today we're going to also talk about, like, installing these should be pretty simple. Knock on wood. There's some wood down here. I'm going to struggle lately with this car, but I'm not going to say it again. We're going to talk about some common coilover things that a lot of questions I see, a lot of things people might not know or might not understand fully, you know, and as well as like how to install these. Pretty easy. So the first thing we need to do, we're starting on the rears. So we need to put our damping extensions on. So these, where's my knife? No, use the Allen key. These are gonna, let me get you a closer view here. We're gonna take this, loosen this set screw. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna try to loosen the set screw. I don't know if I'm capable of it. Slide them over the damping knob. Oh, you can't really see. So there's the set screw, slide them over the damping knob. Tighten the set screw back down. Get it nice and snug. So now, when we turn this, hear that? We're adjusting the damping. So this will come up into the trunk here. You can't even see what I'm doing. To get it through here or here. And then I think we'll just zip tie them to this. So yeah, simple enough. So I'm gonna get the other one on, and then we're gonna start installing. So we've already deleted our spring bucket. So that is where this guy would go. And that's where the spring would sit on a standard separate spring and shock setup, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you aren't gonna replace this bucket with this arm to get your alignment correct, God, knocking my light everywhere. And there's no point in doing a true coilover. People think that like it's better. It's really not better in any way. The separate spring and shock setup is great. I mean, that's where the car was designed to have it. You know, that's what the kind of chassis and bracing was designed around. But if you need that arm, you need more adjustment, true coilover is the way to go. So, I'm gonna take this guy out. So these are 12 mils. Oh my God, oh Jesus. Between the camera and the light, I just do not have a lot of room. Alright, so out comes this guy. Fish this through the hole because the knob is too big to fit through the hole. Alright, easy enough. I've hit my head on these spinner wells like 100 times in the past 2 days. Don't ask me why, because I don't know, but it keeps happening. say an extension, I mean several extensions. Okay, so on the factory shock, I don't know, you guys probably pointed. Okay, on the factory shock, there's a nut essentially like welded to the lower mount. So this one comes with a nylock nut. You just obviously cut the zip tie, use the same factory bolt, bolt it in. Okay, so next step, we'll put the damping extender on the top to show you guys what that looks like. You just slide it down. There's a set screw on this, just like the other one. Tighten down the set screw. Now you can adjust your damping. So we're gonna try to fish this through here and back up. It's gonna, oh, it's right there. It's right there. Come on, buddy. You can do it. Yeah, hooray, we got it. All right, so that's how you do the rear. Super easy. I think, in my opinion, this is like the second, not the second easiest car, but one of the easiest cars. I believe, in my opinion, an S chassis is the easiest car to install coilovers on. I've installed coilovers on probably 50 to 100 different cars, and an S chassis is like by far the easiest. It's like 5 bolts on each side in the front, yeah, 5 bolts in a bracket, and it's just easy. 3 bolts in the rear, super simple. I mean, this is pretty easy too in the rear. The front's just like maybe 5% more difficult. So I'm gonna finish up the other rear and then we'll move to the front. Before we move on to the front, I'm just gonna show you how sick this looks. Black, gray, and gold. Gold, gold, gold. It just looks tight. It looks so sick. Accidentally matching suspension setup. Okay, anyway, moving on to the front. All right, first thing is this lower nut. Well, nut and bolt, rather. Okay. So we need to get the 12 for the brake line. Okay, now we go up top. All right, so we've got the strut tower brace, which I believe is 14s on both sides. It's 14s. And this clip here, carrying a knife, is so useful. We'll pop it off the other side, then we can take it off entirely. And then we can just drop the bolt down the tail. Then we can just take it off entirely. Just move it out of the way here. Okay. Alright, so we got this guy. I remember last time these were all too tight for that. Ow. Crushed my finger. And we don't reuse these. The coilover comes with new top nuts. Pull the coilover out, just like that. Reverse the order here. Throw the new coilover in. I need to put these in my right hand. I normally just, I'm probably in the way, aren't I? I normally just stick it up in. Oh wow. Get the studs up through and then hold it from the bottom with one hand. Get a nut on it to hold it up. A lot of people ask on, like this car is a very common car where I get this question of, oh, does the kit come with a camber plate? Or why doesn't the kit come with a camber plate? Can I get camber plates? Well, no, you can't get camber plates. And the reason for that, let me tighten this down and I'll show you. So here you have what's called a double wishbone. Well, this isn't a double wishbone. This is just A-arm suspension. So you have that upper control arm. Then you have your big knuckle, spindle, whatever you want to call it. And then your lower control arm. So if you look at the shock, it bolts into that lower mount. So if you had a plate up here and you moved it over left to right, it would just change the angle of the shock, because what determines the wheel moving in and out is the upper or lower control arm length. So if you bring that out, brings the top of the wheel out. You bring it in, brings the top of the wheel in. So that is the only way to have camber on a car with this suspension setup. An S chassis is McPherson setup, which is lower control arm, then the shock bolts directly to like the top of the knuckle. So then when you bring the top of the shock in, you bring the top of the wheel in. So just a little tidbit. Alright, so real quick, before we lower the car down and see where our ride head is, I want to talk about the difference between linear and digressive coilovers. I figured in coilover install so easy, I should give you guys some information while we're here. A lot of you asked questions about it, so we're going to give a quick little explanation of the difference. So, first we need to understand a shock dyno. A shock dyno is just like a car dyno. Car dyno, you have horsepower, you have RPM on the x-axis and horsepower on the y-axis, right? So this is like what a car dyno looks like. So with a shock dyno, very similar. You have shock velocity on the x and then force on the y. Imagine force is just how stiff the shock is. So shock velocity for us in the imperial system is measured in inches a second. So that's how fast, it's not how fast you're going. Yes, how fast you're going will affect how fast the shock is moving over the same given bump. But we're talking about how fast the shock is moving, either up or down. Compression, rebound. So anything under 2 inches a second is considered low speed. So low speed is all the stuff you feel. Turn in, braking, acceleration. Imagine as you brake, the front dives down and the shock compresses. And then as you get on the gas, the rear squats down, the front droops down. So that's all your low speed stuff. Pretty much all the driver inputs. That's what you feel. So with a linear damper, the faster the shock is moving, the stiffer it becomes. What that does is when you get into like trying to get a car to feel really stiff down in the low speed section, you then have to make it really stiff up top because it's just going to go up and up and up. So with a digressive coilover, what it does is it ramps up really quickly and then tapers off. So you get all that stiffness down low that gives you that composure. The car feels really dialed and stiff. You get kind of like the sportiness as far as the driver inputs go, but then when you go over like a fast bump or say on the track hit curbing, for example, it's soft. It's not softer than it was down low, but it's dramatically softer than it would be if it was linear. So there's nothing wrong with a linear shock. A lot of people use linear shocks. Most coilovers you're going to find on the market, besides really crazy stuff, are going to be linear. Digressive is kind of like its own animal. But there's nothing wrong with it. People run linear shocks all the time and they love them, but I really like the digressive because it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. Like my Vet has DS's on it and it's like driving down the highway, hitting the freeway joints and stuff feels like a stock car. But when you throw it into a corner or whatever, it feels like it has, nice stiff coilovers. So anyway, that's the difference between the two. Real quick, one more thing, motion ratio. I know I explained this in the last video, but I just want to explain it again real quick because I do get this question a lot at work. So, this is your rear spring bucket. This is the inside of the subframe, outside where the knuckle and the wheel is. So, from the factory, your spring is mounted all the way in here. So, the wheel has mechanical advantage over the spring in the form of leverage because this is mounted in here. So the wheel has a leverage advantage on the spring. So what that does is, let's say an 8K, we'll just use even numbers for example, an 8K here at the wheel with a 50% motion ratio is a 4K. So when we do the true coilover, going down, I have a 4K on mine. The default, I think we ran it with a 5. But, it was going to be very similar to the 8. So a lot of people ask, well, why is it different with the true coilover? Well, it's because of that change. Now you move the shock out to where it's right on the wheel, and the wheel has very little leverage advantage, mechanical advantage on the shock spring setup. So that's why you have to go down in rate to achieve the same effective wheel rate. There's a lot of stuff to learn about suspension for those of you interested. I'll try to put some links below. There's just a wealth of knowledge out there. The one thing I will say though, it's like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And you'll notice that like this expert who, has a good track record, is proven to win or whatever will say something completely opposing this expert who has all the same prerequisites. It's just crazy. It's weird. Like, people argue about it all the time, but it's nice to know, and there's good information out there. So, with that said, I'm just the tip of the iceberg. Believe me, there's so much more I need to know. So we're gonna lower the car down and see where it is. I'm gonna bet the front's gonna be close and the rear is gonna be high. That's gonna be my guess. The front might be a little high too. We'll see. Guy lowers his car off the lift, and you'll never believe what happens. It lands on the ground. All right, so the front's good. The front is pretty much exactly where it was before, which is like where I'm fine with. The rear, we're gonna go lower. Learning things today. Let me show you guys how to adjust coilovers. Our coilovers, specifically. The teens are different. Let me show you actually. So the teens, you adjust the ride height by adjusting the spring up or down. So as you lower the spring, you lower the vehicle's ride height. The problem with that is then you are sacrificing compression travel. As you move the spring down, you're starting lower and lower and lower in the shock stroke, which you're gonna start, a decent bit down as the vehicle compresses the spring. But if you lower it all the way and you're starting with this all the way down here, you have virtually no travel, which I've seen people do. So that's why I don't personally like this setup. These, what you do, you break the lock ring loose, boom. And then we're gonna be threading the entire shock into the lower mount. We're gonna use these two lock rings, which are locked against each other. We'll just snug them up just to make sure we don't get any movement. And then to go down, we're gonna use the top lock ring and turn it clockwise, which we actually might, no, we can't do it by hand. And this will essentially thread the shock into the lower mount, shortening its overall length. So I'm gonna plug away at this and then I will get back to you guys when I'm done. All right, any guesses? Is it gonna be too low or is it gonna be good? I just went all the way to max low, which if you do adjust your coilovers all the way down to the bottom, make sure once you hit the bottom, turn them back like a half turn or a turn, just to keep them from wanting to seize up against the bottom. Oh, it's like perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. It's gonna settle down a little more than this, but I just wanna make sure I can still fit the jack. Oh yeah, we got like 1.5 miles, so even when it compresses and settles some, we'll be good. Oh man, this thing looks sweet. Do a slow pan. Oh gosh, it's so cool for such a ratty car. Such a POS, much cool though, but not really cool, but kind of cool. Yeah, I'm gonna leave the front where it is. It was at this ride height before. We might have to raise it a tad. I didn't have any rubbing issues with it around that height, none that I noticed, so I'm good with that. Rear is fine. Most of our wheels are sunk. Look at that toe though. I gotta oil this thing, I gotta do an oil change. Oh, we do have one more thing to do tonight. We're gonna do that real quick. Okay, putting on, where is it? Where did I put it? Is it down here? Yeah. Catch can. At the last event, my car was like pluming smoke randomly. And generally when that happens, when it goes from like not smoking at all to just randomly pluming huge clouds, it's a PCV issue where your PCV setup is, sucking oil into the engine, just like throwing it straight out. It's running right through, the compression cycle like the air is. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, so that part was kind of tricky, so this hose, I'll show you where it connects, but this is the intake side where it connects to the intake and it's completely split. So that could have been part of the problem. But basically you can't even see it. This is super tricky. Well, you can see, this is the cap that I use. So that's the cap on the intake right there. And then it runs and goes like back under here. Super hard to get to. I had to get to it from this side over here. Like, just feel my way through, put pliers back there, get the clamp off. and then put a cap on the backside. So that is capping off the circulation back into the intake itself. So now all we have to do is take this hose off here. Sorry, I'm running ahead of light. Take this hose off here, take it off of the PCV on the driver's side valve cover, so that will come out into our catch can and back into here. Cooperate with me. All right, got that one on. All right, well, our Medusa catch can is finished. Like I said, we blocked that pipe off, and we've got this guy in line. So this should capture the oil coming out of the PCV valve cover system. We've got it vented. I think everything should be good there. Just a quick little install. If it doesn't work, because this is like, it's like on the border of kinking, but it's not kinked, and I think it'll be okay because it's not like this is an oil drain for a turbo or something. But you know, if we have any issues, we know where to look. Yeah, all in all, very happy with the progress this week. I still have a bit to do, like I was saying, but I mean, we did the solid subframe bushings, the coilover, the catch can, like all things I've been needing to address. So I do have a few more things to do, like I want to do an oil change, check all the fluids, alignment, you know, all that kind of boring stuff. But since I got to mount tires too, I was thinking, I think what I'm going to do is do the tire video I was talking about. A lot of you said that you'd want to see that. So we'll explain how to get used tires, new tires, free tires, what brands, all that stuff. So I look forward to that. Hopefully I have time to make it, but we're ahead of schedule-ish right now. So we should be good. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. See you later.